On the first day of the month, I was at home alone, resting on my bed and had fallen asleep. As I was drifting, suddenly, two incredibly large men appeared before me, men like no others I had ever seen on earth. Their faces shone like the sun, their eyes burned with fiery light, and flames came from their lips. They wore purple robes, more radiant than gold, and their wings were brighter than sunlight, while their hands were whiter than snow. They stood at the head of my bed, called my name, and I immediately awoke. I looked clearly at these two men standing in front of me. I greeted them, but fear seized my heart, and my face changed with terror. One of the men spoke to me, saying, "Be courageous, Enoch, do not fear. The Lord has sent us to you. Today, you will ascend with us to heaven, and you will inform your sons and household about what they must do when you are no longer on earth, in this house. Let no one seek you until the Lord brings you back." I quickly obeyed their command. I left the house and reached the door as instructed. I called my sons, Muzel, Regem, and Gad, and told them all the marvelous things the angels had shared with me. After I had given them my instructions, the angels lifted me on their wings and bore me up to heaven. They took me to the first heaven and placed me on the clouds. When I looked down, I saw a sea much larger than the earthly seas. Then, they led me higher, where I saw the ether sky, where the elders and leaders of the stars reside. They showed me 200 angels who govern the stars, who serve heaven, fly with their wings, and circle all those who sail the seas. I also saw the treasure houses of snow, where angels guard these fearful stores, as well as the clouds, where they come from and where they go. They led me to the treasure house of the dew, which resembled olive oil and carried the scent of all the flowers of the earth. Gradually, they took me to the second heaven, where I saw a darkness thicker than any earthly darkness. There, I saw prisoners being tortured, awaiting their eternal judgment. The angels guarding them were grim, darker than the world's darkness, and continuously wept day and night. I asked my guides why these souls were being tormented so. They explained that these were those who had turned away from the Lord's commands, who followed their own desires and aligned with their prince, who himself was imprisoned in the fifth heaven. Next, they took me to the third heaven, where I saw unimaginable beauty. I saw trees bearing sweet fruits, with aromas so delightful, and the trees around me were in full bloom, exhaling sweet fragrances. In the midst of these trees stood the tree of life, where the Lord rests when he ascends to heaven. This tree's fragrance was indescribable, more radiant than anything on earth. Its appearance was golden, glowing like fire, and it covered everything around it. The tree bore all kinds of fruits. Its roots stretched to the farthest end of the earth, and from the center of heaven, two streams flowed, one with honey, the other with milk. These streams brought life, flowing with purity and holiness. My story continued as I was taken higher, crossing the heavens to witness the marvels of the celestial realms and the judgment of the Lord for the fallen souls. The visions I saw were not only of the breathtaking beauty of heaven but also of the harsh trials and warnings about the fall of angels in the past. The Lord wanted me to witness all of this so that I could understand His glory and the danger of pride and arrogance. Throughout my journey to heaven, I not only saw the unparalleled beauty of these sacred lands but also learned profound lessons on humility, obedience, and the unconditional love the Lord has for all of His creations. Each heaven I visited was a reminder of God's greatness and the sin of humankind, who could abandon Him for selfish desires and pride. They divided the rivers into 4 parts, and these flowed along a steady course, passing through the paradise of Eden, situated between corruption and immortality. The rivers then continued their course on earth, revolving like the other elements, constantly moving in their cycles. In this garden, there were no barren trees, and every place was blessed. There were 300 bright angels guarding the garden, singing sweetly and incessantly, serving the Lord day and night with their voices raised in praise. The two men led me north, where I saw a terrifying place. Here, there were torches burning brightly, but the atmosphere remained gloomy with no light shining, only dull fire rising continuously. A fiery river flowed from there, and the whole area was immersed in fire, frost, thirst, and cold. The angels guarding this place had cruel, cold faces, wielding angry weapons, offering no mercy. I felt immense fear and cried out, "Oh, what a terrible place!" The men answered me, "This, Enoch, is the place prepared for those who dishonor God, those who live in sin and injustice on earth. These are the ones who cause wickedness, such as those who corrupt children, practice witchcraft, deceit, envy, hatred, fornication, murder, those who steal souls, take from the poor to make themselves rich, and those who can help but let the hungry die or the naked go unclothed. These people, who do not know their Creator and bow down to lifeless gods, will receive eternal punishment here." They then led me to the fourth heaven, where I observed the movements of the sun and moon. I compared their lights and noticed that the sun's light was far more powerful than the moon's. The sun's orbit moved with incredible speed, like an unstoppable wind, and it never ceased its movement. The sun was accompanied by 4 great stars, each having 1,000 stars beneath it, to the right and left of the sun's wheel, a total of 8,000 stars moving along with the sun. During the day, 150,000 angels followed the sun, and at night, 1,000 six-winged angels accompanied it, diving into the flames. These angels were the ones who ignited the sun and kept it shining brightly. Next, I was taken to the fifth heaven, where I saw many angels, called the Gregorii, who had human-like appearances but were even larger than giants. Their faces were hollow, and they were silent, with no sound coming from their mouths. No service occurred in this heaven. I asked my guides why they appeared so sad and silent and why there was no activity in this place. They explained that these were the Gregorii, who, along with their prince Satan, rejected the Lord's light. Later, 3 of them descended from the Lord's throne to earth, saw the daughters of men, took wives from them, and defiled the earth with their deeds. They broke their vows, causing humanity to give birth to giants and strange beings, creating enmity and sin. Therefore, God judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, awaiting the great judgment day of the Lord. Finally, the men continued the journey and took me to the sixth heaven, where I saw 7 divisions of angels, radiant and glorious. Their faces shone brighter than the sun, and there was no difference in their appearance, behavior, or clothing. These angels formed the virtues and performed their duties flawlessly, maintaining the order and glory of heaven. They are the ones who uphold and protect all rules, carrying out the Lord's commands, ensuring that the heavenly actions proceed smoothly. Each angel here had their own role, and all radiated a mystical light, enhancing the beauty of this heaven. I felt the mysticism of every heaven I had witnessed. Each place I visited was part of the Lord's grand plan, from creation to judgment. The angels I encountered, whether in high or low heavens, were unimaginable beings to humans, yet they worked tirelessly, protecting the order of heaven, fulfilling the tasks entrusted to them by the Lord. These experiences not only helped me understand the work of the angels but also revealed God's greatness and fairness towards all His creations. These great angels were responsible for the stars, the changes of the moon, the movement of the sun, and the good governance of the world. When they saw evil, they established commandments and guidance, singing sweet and loud songs of praise. These hymns were sung by the archangels, those who oversee all the angels, measuring all life in heaven and on earth. These angels were assigned to govern the seasons, the years, the rivers, the seas, and the fruits of the earth. They also cared for every blade of grass, providing food for every living thing. Additionally, there were angels who recorded all the souls of humans, their deeds, and their lives before the Lord. Among them were 6 phoenixes, 6 cherubim, and 6 multi-winged angels, all singing in unison, praising the Lord, and rejoicing before His throne. The 2 men then led me to the 7th heaven, where I saw a great light and a vast army of archangels, mighty legions, dominions, thrones, cherubim, seraphim, and angels with many eyes. The scene was both mystical and terrifying, and I began to feel great fear. The men said to me, "Be courageous, Enoch, do not fear." They led me to see the Lord from afar, sitting on His very high throne. He resided in the 10th heaven, called Aravat, in Hebrew. The heavenly hosts from various ranks stood on 10 steps, bowed before the Lord, and then returned to their places, singing in joy and happiness, serving Him with soft and holy voices, shining in endless light. I then continued to see the 8th heaven, called Moath, in Hebrew, where the seasons of drought and rain are regulated, along with the 12 constellations in the circle of the firmament, located above the 7th heaven. The 9th heaven, called Kavim, in Hebrew, was where the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations resided. In the 10th heaven, where the Lord dwells, called Aravo, I saw the Lord's face, like iron glowing in fire, emitting sparks. The Lord sat on a very great throne, indescribable in its beauty, surrounded by countless heavenly hosts, with continuous hymns that never ceased. I felt that I could never fully describe the greatness, the mysticism of the Lord, and the reverence all the angels had for Him. I fell prostrate and bowed before the Lord, and He spoke to me with His own lips, "Be courageous, Enoch, do not fear. Stand up and stand before my face forever." The archangel Michael lifted me up and led me to stand before the Lord. The Lord commanded His servants, "Let Enoch stand before my face forever." The great angels bowed before the Lord and said, "Let Enoch go according to your word." And the Lord ordered Michael, "Take Enoch from his earthly garments, anoint him with my sweet ointment, and clothe him in my glorious garments." Michael obeyed the Lord's command, anointed me, and dressed me in his glorious attire. The ointment had a light brighter than the sun, a fragrance gentle and shining like the rays of the sun. When I looked at myself, I felt that I had become like one of the glorious angels of the Lord.